Good morning. Good morning, Alexander. How are you this morning? Hi, Schley. If you want to come up and be on the panel, just send a guest request. I just want to talk about God this morning, on whether He is really trying to unite us as a people, and what are those family values in the Bible. Is it the concubines? Is that the family value part that we're talking about? I'm trying to figure out, what are these family values? So if you want to come up and talk to me, just send a guest request. I'm going to take a few believers and some non-believers, and we can talk about it. Thank you for liking the live. If we can get those likes up as quickly as possible and maybe share this out to a few people, that would be awesome too. I believe uniting is important, but I don't actually believe that God is trying to unite us. So come up and share with me your thoughts. So you want to come up? Are you busy this morning? Hopefully we'll get some people in here this morning. I know that a lot of really good creators are live right now. I almost didn't go live, but I thought, what the heck, we'll give it a try, and see how it goes. We'll see if we get some people up here, some friendlies and otherwise. I'm gonna share this to Discord. I'll be right back. Hang on one second, y'all. Who do we got here? Who do we got? Let me make myself big.
Hello.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm enjoying my summer, my week of summer.
Oh, nice.
How are you?
Are you doing anything fun this week?
I decided to redo my daughter's room. She's a big kindergartner now, so out with the baby
Aww.
stuff and with the big girl stuff. So just working on that, but I thought I would come hang out for a while.
That's cool. I'm glad you decided to come hang out with me. Hopefully we'll get some people to come join us. This is a pretty slow start for me, but maybe people aren't digging this. I just thought I'd try these topics. I just was thinking this week, because in the Bible study yesterday, we went over the story of the Tower of Babel, and it made me think about how Christians always tell us that God just wants us to all get along. He just wants to, for us to all come together. But does he really? Because why did he separate us when we did all come together?
Yeah.
And then I started thinking about the family values in the Bible. And the only family values that I could really say are good, if which is subjective in my opinion, is that God said women, be submissive to your husbands, and that people should provide for their family, and the kids should obey their parents. But other than that, I think the family values in the Bible are pretty shitty. Cain and Abel, Esau and, Jacob, Amnon and his sister Tamar, I think her name was Tamar or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the way men treated their wives,
Truly, I agree. I see it as a tactic to, like kind of love bomb people in, like say pretty words and make it sound like it's one way, and then slowly, like maybe not so slowly in some cases, add in the crazy and just surprise, like we're actually really, really toxic, but you're sunk cost fallacy, like too late, we got you now. I was indoctrinated. So the concept of not believing what my parents told me to be true, and not believing that obviously like God is real. My mom and dad said God is real. So, and they wouldn't lie to me. Like, so the Bible is absolute truth. Like they say so. So like, why would it not be? So like to even question that, I think is a very brave thing, especially as somebody, if you grew up and you were indoctrinated, you were raised in a church with these ideas of biblical family values and peace and love of Jesus, to question that and to start to peel back, a little bit deeper and realize like, wait, this isn't actually aligning with what they're saying. That's a brave thing. That's a very hard thing to do.
Hey, can you give me 1 second? My husband just called. I want to text him and tell him why I didn't answer.
Yeah, I'll hang out. Hi, Chad. Hi, everybody. Yeah, maybe we can get the likes up and share the live for CrystalJae and get things going. Hopefully we can have a good chat. How's everybody doing today? Put in the chat what you're doing this morning. Or is it morning? I guess it's midday where I am. Oh, nice. So you're having dinner, Alexander. I'm trying to wake up. I've got my coffee here. I have a week of summer right now. I am in a pretty rigorous nursing program. So I'm taking advantage of sleeping in while I can. And, taking care of housework, things like that. We can take a look at the kitty cat while we wait. I don't ever hop on live, so sorry if I'm boring you guys, but this is Mika. What you doing? She has pretty strong resting bitch face, but that's okay. We love her anyways. Psst, psst, psst. She's being camera shy. You say hello? We also have a puppy boy. There's a puppy boy. Hello. Where you going? Oh, you don't want him over here in your space? That's waiting for me to fold. Oh no. What's the matter? Are you gonna get in my lap? What are you doing? You got itchies? Itchy scratchy? That's Tyson. Hi, Seth.
Okay, can you guys hear me again now? Am I back?
I hear you.
Am I back? Hey, Seth. Thank you for entertaining everybody. Shley, I also made you moderator, so you can do things now. You have powers. You have all the powers. Hey, Seth, how are you today? We're just talking this morning about, well, I want to talk about, but I've probably bored everybody to death so that they're not going to come in now. Does God want us to unite? and what are biblical family values. Fat Jesus, do you want to come up and hang out with us? Are you available right now? Yeah, I wanted to talk about these things. I found some Bible verses. Maybe we'll go over those while we wait for people to join. Tracy, maybe you'll come up and join us. Okay. Well, Fat Jesus, if you want to come up, you know you're more than welcome to come up, hang out. I'm trying to get some people up here. Hi, Tracy. How are you this morning?
I'm wonderful. I just left a cult of gingerbread cookies. So I'm, amped up for the Muffin Man.
Oh, all right. I was talking to my daughter about your lives that you're doing now. They're so fucking cool. Like, I think it's such a great idea to have people up just to teach you different things.
Yeah,
It's
it's fun.
amazing.
It's
It's a
fun.
really great idea. Anyway, I thought I'd share with you guys some Bible verses while we wait for people to join us regarding these topics, and we can discuss it, okay? So we're going to turn to Genesis chapter 11, verses 7 and 8. And Tracy, we just went over this in Bible study, so you're aware. You are aware.
Oh yeah,
Alright.
Tower of Babel.
Yeah. In the story of the Tower of Babel, God is like, hey, what the heck? I'm sorry, my screen went weird for a minute. Hey, these people are all getting along. They all speak the same language, and they're working together really nicely. And then he said, come, let us go down and confuse their language there, so they will not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from there over the face of all the earth, and they left off building the city. So to me, that just doesn't sound like a God who is trying to unite the people. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is not a guy who cares about peace or harmony or working together or demonstrating what love is at all.
No.
It's giving bored troll.
Yes.
Right? To me, it's like, I don't know, like, just, you know how some parents are literally their children's first bully?
Yeah.
And so I was saying
Very
yesterday,
well.
I just pictured kids sitting there playing really nicely together, all building like a Lego thing together or something, and the parents coming in and going, you guys are getting along too well, no. And then knocking down the tower and telling them to all go to their rooms for being good kids. What the hell? Seth said, also, who is us? Us is the divine council. That is, the divine council saying, let's go down there and do this. I do believe it was the Pantheon. In the first few chapters of the Bible, you can see that God is an antagonist to humans. I agree, Alexander, 100%. Let's look at another verse too. Matthew 10:34 through 36. I don't know if we'll get people in here this morning. If we don't, we just won't stay live for long. But we'll wait and see if we get anybody. I usually get a lot more people than this by now, so it could be that Sebastian being live, and then I forgot who else. African Atheist is live. A few others are live this morning, so could be just too many of us live for me to get anybody.
And you're on the
Okay.
hour too, so people taking lunch breaks might show up in the next few minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not really sure. Oh, okay, is this Jesus, I think, speaking? I think this is Jesus. Jesus said, do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and one's foes will be members of one's own household. To me, that's a good verse for the family value one question too. Like, what kind of family values are these?
That sounds like if you read that from Jesus's like teenage journal, that you would worry he was going to pew pew his school.
No kidding.
Yes, yes, that's so true. And
Also,
I just
it's just
go
a
ahead.
theme. I was just going to say it's just a theme of violence. Like, I know I said that the other day when we were doing the deconstruct your church thing, but
Yeah,
it's just a theme of like division and violence, and I've come to bring this sword. Like, no wonder they're so freaking weird and violent. Like, I'm sorry, maybe that's mean of me to say, but like it does seem rather odd that in the name of love you would have to be so violent. I think that's such a odd and psychotic way to perceive and embody love. Like,
yep,
what are we doing?
I agree.
You qualified that about not wanting to be mean, but look at what you're referring to. You know?
Right?
You don't want to be judgmental of Christians, but their literal foundational leader says you have to hate each other if you're going to love me.
Hate your mom, hate your brother, hate your sister.
Strife.
They like to say, well, that just means he wants you to love him more. That doesn't make it better. Can you imagine, like, I don't know, I'm a parent and I have 3 adult children, and they all are in very loving, healthy relationships. And I cannot imagine for 1 minute me telling them, but you need to love me more than your spouse and your,
That's bonkers.
your fiance. I think that's freaking weird. Like, what kind of weirdo would tell their kid that?
Why is he so weak and attention seeking? It seems like an all powerful being would be a lot more secure than that.
Yeah, for sure. So I also put down Luke 12:51 through 53. And this is, I think, a similar verse that we just read. Do you think that I have come to bring peace to the earth? No, I tell you, but rather division. So here again, this is going with my question about, does God want to unite us, and family values. This fits both of those. From now on, 5 in one household will be divided, 3 against 2 and 2 against 3. See, how does that have anything to do with you just loving Jesus more? This one does not. It's clearly saying I came to divide your families up. They will be divided, father against son, and son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against mother, mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. He clearly is not a God of unity, and I don't find these family values to be what Christians make out Christian family values.
Real quick, is my background noise okay?
Yeah, you're fine.
Perfect. I'm in a room with a couple fans, so I didn't want to
I
sound like
have
I
a
was
fan
in
on
an
too.
airplane.
Is it bothering any of you guys, the fan that I have on?
No, I can't even hear it. Yeah,
Okay, good.
I'm on my break, so I thought I'd stop in and say hello. Hello,
Hello.
Tracy. Hello, Schley. Hello, Crystal.
Hello. It's good to actually talk to you.
I know. It's usually through text,
Yeah.
through the comments section.
Fat Jesus, are we forgiven?
You are. You don't need my blood sacrifice to do it.
I'm so grateful.
I will
Jesus,
take
can we go for
offerings.
ice cream?
Yes, I will take offerings of pizza and ice cream.
Yes.
All right. That means I get to eat the pizza and ice cream. That counts as an offering, right?
Well, yes, one for you and one for me.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
When do I get the piggyback ride on the ocean?
Whenever?
You know, the walking on water thing.
Yeah, no,
No,
Like
It's
the
a-
footprints in the sand.
Yeah, the sand. I knew what you meant.
Oh.
You're like, you're gonna carry me.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the ocean. I could do both. The water trick takes it. It's only one person. It's only one person at a time. Unfortunately, I can't carry anybody. But on the
Yeah.
sand, I can do that.
Amen.
So, any thoughts on this morning's topics, Fat Jesus?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that the Bible is a great judge of any type of family values when it tells you to hate your family and
Hey, Joyful.
to stone your unruly children. It doesn't really shout to me family values personally. I mean, God Himself set His kid up to be tortured and crucified. So,
Yeah.
it
What
doesn't,
about that?
not the best dad.
And
Not the
everybody's
best
just
dad.
like, okay, because that means I get to go to heaven. Like, what the hell? Ugh.
Yeah. I'm okay with that because I get to go to heaven. That's horrible. Joyful. Okay, you guys, whenever I hear Joyful's name, I always want to go, Joyful, joyful, I adore thee. Okay. Like I think of all the hymns with Joyful in it.
Ooh, do the version from Sister Act 2. So
That's the only one I hear.
yeah. Joyful, joyful, Lord, we adore thee. That one's the best one.
Oh, Seth.
Love you too, Seth. I wish you were in the office today too. You could come up and join us.
Oh my
Hang
God,
out
how
with
fun.
us. I do my lives a lot while people are working, but it's just an easier time for me. Hubby's not home, so you guys don't have to hear him. Did you guys, I was on African Atheist Live one day and we were having like a really serious discussion and Doug was home and he walks by me and lets out the biggest belch you have heard ever. And everybody started yelling at the guests because they thought one of the Christians like had burped into their microphone. And I'm like, no, like, I'm really sorry. That was Doug. I didn't know he was going to do that or whatever.
I thought that was going to go way different. I thought he was going to do a drive-by fart.
No. Oh my God.
Just a quick little duck quack as he walks by.
A little crop dusting.
A little crop dust.
Hey, Big T, you want to come up? Please feel free to come up. We're just hanging out, talking this morning.
Big T, join us. Join the dark side.
As far as the topic goes, I just had a couple more thoughts about, because this is really hard. I think for a lot of people who have been out of the religion for years and years, maybe it's not as hard anymore. But for me, like, I'm like 2-3 years. It's kind of, I have had a kind of a different journey. Like, it wasn't just like one day I woke up and I wasn't a Christian, which a lot of people kind of slowly unravel it. But anyway, it's just really hard because like my best friend is actually my mother-in-law, but she's very, very, very Christian. And so like hearing verses like that, it's like, yeah, she's being encouraged to pull away from me now that she knows, that I no longer share her same beliefs.
Yeah.
It's really tough, because we lose so much of our community. Like, I mean, for me, for a lot of us, I think so much of who we are was like going to church and being a part of Bible studies and doing leadership. Like, I lived at the church.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of us did. And so when we lose that community, but especially when it's someone who is like so close, who knows you so well, and then all of a sudden it's like a switch goes off as soon as they find out that, you don't think the same way and you've stepped outside of their box. You're no longer a safe person in their eyes. You're no longer worthy of a valid opinion. Like, your thoughts, your ideas, your opinions are less in their book. They don't have as much respect for you anymore. It's a really tough thing.
It really
Isn't it now
is.
their charge to try to bring you back to Christ? Save your soul?
Definitely. Seth, I'm really sorry. Grief sucks, and my sister passed away when I was 11 and her birthday was August 7th, so I really can feel you on that, and I'm really sorry for your loss, and I'm sorry for your grief, because you're right, it just It comes and goes. Kind of, I feel like it's almost like ocean waves, like when the tide rolls in. So I have another verse for us, Judges 7:22. I don't really know this story. It's like Gideon and that stuff. I haven't read Judges probably in 20 years or so. Wasn't really a Bible book that I wasn't really into the and I was into the Old Testament, but not certain books, like all the worry books. I liked Proverbs, I liked Psalms, I liked Ruth and Esther. All the ones that could make like somehow you could feel good about them. But anyway, here's verse Judges 7:22, and it says. When they blew the 300 trumpets, the Lord set every man as far as Beth Shittah toward. Oh, I'm sorry. The Lord sent every man's sword against his fellow and against all the army, and the army fled as far as Beth Shittah toward Zerach. I'm trying to learn how to do that thing. Anyway, so the Lord set every sword against each other, and that again to me is it. Like, I think that all these times, even when God teaches the Israelites how to get slaves, that was causing division in our whole world. Like he could have said, hey, now that you're free, don't own slaves, because that's not a good thing, and we want to unite our people and not divide our people, and not. Every time he chooses favorites, it causes division.
Remember when you guys were slaves and you didn't like it? Don't do that.
Yeah. I just don't find him. I just don't find him to be a uniting God. And I realize I kind of get tired of Christians telling me that God just wants us to all get along. I don't think he does. I think that's bullshit. I think he likes us to be against each other and to have favorites and to feel favored. Like I was saying one day too, Christianity makes you feel confused, because on the one end of the spectrum, you are dirty, filthy rags. You are wretched. You are no good. There's nothing good inside of you. Anything you've done, that is good is of God. It is not of you. Anything bad you've done is definitely you, and you need to, repent for that and change your ways. But on the other hand, you're told, you are royalty. You are going to go to heaven and have a crown on your head. And I don't know, like, even that was a very confusing message to me. You know what I mean?
It makes sense when you look at it as it, especially with the division. Like when you were saying, and this kind of popped into my head when you were saying that God wants us to be divided, or he wants certain division happening, is that when you look at it through the lens of, this is not a book that's divinely bestowed upon us, but written by people who are trying to understand where the sun went at night, these who had their own hang-ups and their own agendas and their own racism and own types of what's the word I'm looking for? They had people they didn't like, and they had ideas of people that were different than them. That it makes perfect sense that these types of divisions would be in this book, written by people, when it's written by people rather.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, so I also wrote down Romans. Hi, Christina. Thank you. Hi, Pax. Thank you. If anybody wants to come up, I don't have any opposition yet this morning, but if you want to come up and talk about the topics, please feel free to send me a guest request. I whoever wants to come up can come on up.
Before we move on, could I say one thing about that too?
Oh, yeah. Go right ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, we're taught that dichotomy of you have to be submissive. You are like a slave to your salvation, essentially. Faith without works is dead. That whole thing. But
Yeah.
there is ultimately a reward, because it's like you're God's secret girlfriend. It's like
Oh yeah.
he's telling you, all I need you to do is get through this and do this for me and pretend like you're nothing and like I'm doing it all. And then your reward is just chilling and my approval. And
Yeah.
when you look at that in the aspect of family, if your parents treat you with those biblical values, you have no sense of self by the time you're an adult.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
And that is so
Carnation
fair.
101.
Here's another Bible verse that fits both, I think, of the discussions. Okay, so this is where we're going to talk about Rebecca and Jacob and Esau. In Romans 9:10 through 13, it says, is that right? Romans 9:10 through 13. Okay. Nor is that all. Something similar happened to Rebecca when she had conceived children by one husband, our ancestor Isaac. Even before they had been born or had done anything good or bad. So I get really tired of people telling me that Esau did something, because this is before they had done anything good or bad. So that God's purpose of election might continue, not by works, but I'm sorry, wait a minute. Before, yeah, not by works, but by his call. She was told, the elder shall serve the younger, as it is written, I have loved Jacob, but I have hated Esau. How is that how is that you showing that he wants to unite us when he's dividing a family? He's causing division within a family. And how is that good family values? You know what I mean?
And the only reason is to cause division for his own purpose, for him to prove that he can pick favorites.
Exactly.
What a monster.
Yeah.
Here.
Hey,
Hi, Eric.
what's going on?
Nothing much. We're just talking about God and whether he wants to unite us as a people, or if he really actually prefers the division that he causes. And what are those, wonderful family values that I hear so much about?
I would have to say that if all-powerful God knows what will happen before he created this universe, every single action has thus happened the way that God has desired when he created it, meaning that, yes, exactly what he wants.
Yeah, he wants division, and he doesn't have good family values. Is that your take? Because that's my take.
Kind of. Well, so, like, if with an all-powerful God, I always frame it like a God that's able to do create any logical universe he desires. And if he knows the future, so he knows every outcome before he creates the universe. He had the ability to create the universe any way he desired, with any outcome, any action, every step. He knew every single one, so countless amounts. Yet he chose this individual universe, thus meaning that every single outcome is the way he wants it.
Yep. And I just don't see a God who's bringing unity or bringing good family values. I think that he has favorites, and he likes to watch us fight or, struggle. Starting with the Tower of Babel, he was just like, look, they're all getting along so well. Let's screw this up.
I would say it started at Adam and Eve and
Oh,
Cain
yeah,
and Abel.
you're probably right. Yeah, that's true.
If you continue reading in Romans 9, just a little beyond where we were, like verse 14, what then shall we say? Is God unjust? Not at all. And then skip down to 16, because, they have to talk flowery about Moses any opportunity they can. But it says, it does not therefore depend on human desire or effort but on God's mercy. So it really doesn't matter what we do, right or wrong. It depends on if he pulled you out of the hat.
You know, let's keep going with that, Tracy, because if we keep going, it says, for the scripture says to Pharaoh, I have raised you up for the very purpose of showing my power in you, so that my name may be proclaimed in all the earth. So then when he has mercy on whomever he chooses, and he hardens the heart of whomever he chooses. So when, Pharaoh's heart was hardened and he didn't let them go, that was on God, as we know. We know this story. We know that he did it just to show his power. But again, that caused division, not unity. I'm just not seeing this all uniting God. Joyful, how are you this morning? And do you still have a migraine going on?
It's actually COVID.
Oh no!
Oh,
You
sorry,
alright?
buddy.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna try to do a live tonight, but it's probably gonna be short lived, and yeah, probably do a
Oh
panel.
no!
I don't have to be as active if I do a panel.
Yeah, that's true. You can let everybody else yap for you.
Maintain 6 feet social distancing between everybody on the panel.
Leave a
For
box
sure.
in between. You can't sit by me, Schley.
You guys, thank you for all the gifts, likes, and shares. I really appreciate it. I'm just,
Sorry.
you can be joyless apostate.
What time you going live tonight, Apostate?
It'll be 7 p.m. Central.
8. Okay, I'll see if I can come on and help you out there.
Right on, right on.
That'll make it a lot easier.
I just have to say that I
Jeff.
don't appreciate the fact that Joyful gave over my job to Crystal and just booted me to the side of the road. Like, I just don't care anymore, Just saying,
Oh, we love you.
I just didn't toss to the side. It's okay.
Yeah, you didn't like coming up because you couldn't handle the guests. You would boot them all.
That's true. I don't have the tolerance for it.
I love the things that Casey says about me, you guys. He said, I once saw Crystal rip the Little Dipper out of the sky and use it to sip the tears of Yahweh.
That's amazing.
Casey, you guys are so funny. Jesse, how have you been?
I have been wonderful. I'm in a situationship at the moment in time, so that's probably
Guys, we were supposed to do that at the same time.
Extra
Drop the ball.
spicy, Jess. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Anybody have any more thoughts on the topic? I have more verses, and these are more towards the family side, but I do find that the way God causes issues in the family also shows that he's not a very uniting God. Like, I feel like they're almost kind of hand in hand,
I feel like, especially when you were talking about Moses and Ramesses, that any or who we think is Ramesses, or it's actually
Right.
historically not. I digress. That the Pharaoh, that every chance God had to do any kind of uniting, that he did the exact opposite of what would do that. Like, Moses tried to speak with Pharaoh and say, hey, use your head, and God's like, nah, harden his heart. Let's make this harder for you.
Yeah, and it was just to show his power. So it was nothing more than, like a flex, literally.
That whole idea pisses me off so much. And maybe I just, I'm not past it enough yet, but, that makes me so angry to feel like such an arbitrary, I I didn't matter that much, and like I was destined eventually to become a demon. Like I just eventually God was just going to harden my heart, because like I spent 23 years like actively, like I was indoctrinated, but I don't count like until I was 10, because like that's when I really like gave my life to the Lord or whatever. But I was like so devout. I lived at the church. I served, like I did, like, and it, you know, I was one of those Christians where it was like, well, works don't get you to heaven. So like I was like praying and like crying on my face before this all powerful being. And just to know that like, oh, that was meaningless, because he knew I would get to this place, and he knew like eventually he was going to harden my heart. And that just makes me so angry. That makes me want to like burn it all down.
No, it makes me angry too, for real. Like, a lot of stories make I find, and they did. I'm not gonna lie. I questioned them. I couldn't stand them. They irritated me, even as a Christian. But I let apologetics, do its trick on me. Okay, so I hated the story of Esau. I freaking hated the story. I hated the story of Joseph and his Technicolor Dreamcoat. Like I really hated that his brothers like sold him into slavery and everything. I don't know. I hated Job. None of these stories to me gave me the feeling that they were supposed to, I guess. That, I don't know. Like, and I still am like, was that really what I was supposed to get out of that story? I don't know.
I mean, for me, I loved some of the stories. I won't lie. Like Esther, that was my shit, especially because they made like the movie, and I've never been like, I'm ADD, so like I can't sit and read a book, an old book for a long time, like maybe like 10 minutes max. So like when you put it in a movie format, oh, I'm all in. So yeah, like now I have like a different perspective. Like I'm seeing it differently. And that's why, I don't know if you guys, probably everybody here knows Joel reads Bible, but like listening to him read through the Bible is so funny, because the things that he's pointing out are like the things now on the other side that I'm like, yes, that's what I was thinking. But I was one that I don't know if it was because I was indoctrinated as a kid, and they just like cut off and like snipped the critical thought right out of me, along with the empathy. So like these things didn't occur to me until now, where like, I'm like, wow, that really is fucked up. What the hell? Why is that in there? Holy shit. But I just ate it up, like I just ate it all up, and I was like, oh, what a loving God. Like Job's story. How did I ever think it was okay? How?
Right? How did I find, well, okay, I did get mad at this story when I was younger too. So I did avoid, but I did also rationalize it like, oh, but God gave him so much when, at the end of the story, blah, 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 or whatever. But, there were other stories, like somebody mentioned, I think Casey or somebody mentioned Samson and Delilah. I, for some reason, liked that story. I don't think I really grasped that story. But now that I hear Thinker talk about it, and she talks about how the Spirit of God comes over Samson, and then he goes on these murderous, rage-filled events because the Spirit of God comes over him. That's not a good story. That's not a good story. Where does the Spirit of God come over somebody in the Old Testament and he goes and, does something good for people?
That story sounds an awful lot like Hercules and what he did with his family in his story as well.
Really?
Well, yeah, he in his sleep was kind of tricked by gods to murder his whole, unalive his whole family.
Yeah.
And it's, you can kind of see parallels from all mythologies in that area in the Bible. That's why I think like if you look at the biblical stories, and I love the biblical stories, but I look at them like they're the grandiose like myths that they are. like Moses and like the Ark, where it's like this cool tale of magic and triumph and overcoming. Those are mythologies. Those are like Greek mythologies, and they're really fun to listen to. But they're made to capture that kind of feeling for people because it makes you not look at all the, as Crystal said earlier, not look at all the more horrible things that are in the book as well. But these fun, grandiose tales to capture your attention and to talk about, in sermons. I just think it's, I enjoy it as a read and as movies. But I think we have to remember that they're Disney tales.
And I think that I just take the stories different now, where I romanticize them or whatever when I was younger. I'm seeing them in a different light now. I'm seeing all the details of the story, not just the parts that I like. Unicorn, hi, how are you? And thank you for the gifts. Let's go to Genesis 37, 3 and 4 and talk about Joseph for a second. It says, now Israel loved Joseph more than any other of his children because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a long robe with sleeves. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him. I can tell you something. I grew up in a household where there was a clear favorite. I don't know if any of you did.
I did.
I was adopted, but I wasn't adopted till I was in my 30s. It's a long story. But I grew up with my aunt and uncle and my cousin, a cousin who was a girl and a cousin who was a boy, who I called my sister and my brother, because I was told that I needed to call my aunt and uncle mom and dad, and I needed to call my cousins, my sister and my brother. I was 3, so I accepted it, and that's what I did. My brother was the clear favorite to my mother until her dying day, and he could do no wrong, and he was abusive, and to me and my sister, and it sucked. It really sucked to see this person just be a total jerk to everybody, and to have, like, I cannot explain to you how he could do no wrong. He was in the Air Force when I was older, and I was pregnant, and my family was having, I lived in Kansas, they lived in California. I had 2 kids and was pregnant with my 3rd kid, and they were having like an anniversary party for my parents or something, and I couldn't come home. I couldn't fly because I was very pregnant at the time. And my parents made the point to tell me, you know what? Your brother went AWOL to come and see us. Well, first of all, my father served in the Navy. Why would you be bragging that your son went AWOL to come see you? That doesn't make sense. Anybody who is in the services would not brag that somebody went AWOL for anything. But my brother didn't go AWOL. He lived out here in California near my parents on a base, and he was free to come and go. It was just base housing. He just left to and saw them. But they loved to tell stories like that about him, like he was like so special. And it was to point out to me, you should have done more because look at what he did for us. He risked being arrested for us, which of course he did not. But it was always little things like that with them where they were like, look what he did, and he's so amazing, and he's so wonderful. Meanwhile, he treated everybody like pure crap and was very abusive. But it sucks, and it causes division in your family when you do that. And I have 3 children now, and it could be different because all of us were adopted by my mom. Maybe it's different, I don't know. But I cannot imagine for 1 minute loving any one of my children more than the other. Like, I can't even conceive that. Like, not because I don't want to, but like, it's unnatural to me. Like, what? How do you pick a favorite between your children? I don't get it.
The good biblical contrast to that would be the story of the prodigal son. Not necessarily because of the prodigal son, but because of the older brother.
Yeah.
He stayed, he obeyed, he worked for his dad, he did all the things he was supposed to, only to watch his brother, who went and did whatever he want, get the party and the fatted calf for just coming home destitute. So the favorite sometimes works that way too. Instead of them constantly being the perfect example, they can also be the perpetual screw up that constantly comes back.
You know, and okay, I always felt like I was the older brother in that story. Thank you, Jess. Thank you so much. My brother could go out and do horrific things, and he was, you know, it was always amazing to him. And I got the straight A's. I never missed school. I did whatever my parents asked. I did everything I could to get their, you know, their attention and their affection. And I couldn't get it if I wanted to. You know, and I always hated that story too, by the way. Freaking hated that story so much. I was like, why does the father treat this the older one so shitty in this story? I hated it. Anybody else hate that story?
That and the story of Jonah were used to manipulate me into doing like church work that I did not want or did not have time to do so many times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because there is still a reward because, you know, the older brother got to stay in the house. The reward for Jonah is that God didn't smite him down for his grumbling, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like, well, you know, are you going to sit on this hill and pout because God told you to do this, or are you going to get up and go do it?
Right. Wow. That's very manipulative, huh? It is manipulative how they use Bible stories to get us to do things.
Especially as kids.
Yes.
But you know what? When it's in reality, it's not any of that. It was never our fault. You know, like the last thing, I've been no contact with my mom for almost a year. I'm so proud of myself. But the last thing she said to me was that I remind her of my biological father, who, in her eyes, like her side of the story, is that he was a very abusive and horrible man. And so to say that to me, it kind of put it all together, you know, like, yeah. Oh my God, you can't, like, there's a barrier. You were hurt, or at least in her perception of things, like she was hurt. Not to like say things didn't happen or whatever. Like, it's just, she has her story, he has his story, and I will never know the truth. That's all I'm trying to say. But like, she can't possibly look at me. Like, every time she looks at me, she sees him. Of course she's going to treat me differently than my sister, who she had with another man. You know what I mean?
Right.
Of course my sister hung the moon and can do no wrong, and she's the baby. So, like, yeah, I mean, I was like the Cinderella in our house. Like, I cleaned, my parents made like lists of chores for me to do. Like, I had to clean my sister's room and my room and our bathroom. I had to do everybody's laundry, and my sister could just go hang out with her friends and be a kid and have summer. You know, like, anytime I had a friend stay over, it was like pulling teeth to even have any fun or get them to say yes to having one of my friends stay over. And then it would be like, oh, well, don't worry, we're still going to leave you a list of chores. And now if your friend doesn't want to help you with those chores, then I guess they can just go home, but you still have responsibilities. Meanwhile, my baby sister never had, like, it was so different. And I just want to say, like, at this point, I used to think, oh, it's because like there's something wrong with me and I'm evil and I deserve this or what. No, we didn't deserve that treatment, and there was nothing wrong with us. It had nothing to do with us.
Well, since my brother was the, the all-star, whatever, I don't know, he was not, but, since they treated him like that, my sisters and I literally called ourselves Cinders 1, 2, and 3, because short for Cinderella. Yeah, we would call ourselves Cinders. And then to on the other side of that, my son is from my first marriage. It was horrible marriage. My husband, my first husband, was very abusive, and my daughters are from Doug, and there was two things that kind of a dichotomy there. One was that I never was going to let how I felt about my ex having bye, spicy Jess, I love you, have a great day. I was never going to let anything I felt towards my ex affect how I felt towards my son. So I made a conscious effort that if my son, instead of looking at the things that I didn't like about his father that I would see in him, I purposely looked for the things that I did like about his father that I saw in him, because even though I no longer cared for his father and we had a horrible relationship, there was a time I loved him, and there was a time that I fell in love with him, and there were definitely things I liked about him, or I would have never married him and had a baby with him, And so I would purposely look for those things and point them out to my son and say things like, your father was really funny. Let me tell you some stories about him, and your humor reminds me of him, or whatever, because I knew that there were women who did that to their children, and I was like, I can't do that to him. On the other hand, I would have people tell me all the time that you love your son just like your mother loved your brother, and that you play favorites with him. And that just, bye, Eric. Thank you for coming up. I really appreciate it. Feel free to come back if you want. I hated that. And here's why actually people say that. My son is really smart, and he was the oldest. And so people saw how smart he was at a very, very young age. My son graduated from MIT, okay? And they put these things on him about how good and how smart and how wonderful he was at such a young age, that when my daughters were born, they did that in their head and cared more about my son than my daughters. And so they put that on me, like, you must also. But that was just not true. And I really hated when people said that. My daughters are both super freaking smart. Just because they didn't go to MIT doesn't take away from how incredibly intelligent they are, and both very amazing artists. So they have their own thing. Each one of them are so different. They're not. There's no way to compare my children, because you can't compare things that are totally different. But it doesn't make me love any of them more or less or whatever. So so I hated that, because it was either people would think oh, maybe you see your ex in your son and you don't like him as much, or he's so smart and he's so good that you favor him over your daughters, which neither one of those things were true.
Well, yeah, Crystal, I totally identify with what you're saying, because I had an older sister who just was, super overachiever, every scholarship, and just, came to me crying with a B, one time.
Yeah.
Stuff I don't care.
Right?
I practically failed every math class I ever took, so. And my big thing is that my mom was a teacher at the same school I attended, and so my whole life, everybody would constantly come and be like, why isn't he more like my sister. And so I constantly heard that all the time, and so there was like this constant shadow of my older sister, and why I didn't like quite measure up the way that she was. And so it's like so frustrating to feel that way when you have your own things to bring to the table and you're your own
Right?
person and you're good at your own things, so and it felt like it took my mom a long time to come to that realization, so I'm glad to hear you're not like that, because as somebody who was kind of on the receiving end of that, it was hard, and I eventually had to tell, my mom, like, you got to stop, and like, especially in that situation where it was very unique because it was like parent teacher conferences for me every day. It's like if I forgot to turn something in, like I would hear about it that day, not like 2 months or 3 months later when there was
Right.
parent teacher conferences. And so I had to tell my mom, like, you have to tell these teachers, like, if you have a problem, you need to talk to me about it at parent teacher conferences. You can't approach me about it every single day. And she kind of at first like fought me about that, but then I think after a while kind of came to that realization. She was like, oh, I see where he's coming from. Like, it's not really fair to put him under the microscope like that all the time, so I
Yeah.
think that it just it's a crazy world with that dynamic of having, children who are so different, but also in the same like family unit, and
Right.
how that dynamic works and how you can be cut in a way from the same cloth but be so totally different, and that's the
Totally
thing.
different.
And my mom, and like coming from your standpoint and as a parent, I can totally see it because it's like you want the best for your children, that they're smart. Like, I mean, that's what my parents used to say to me all the time, and they still say, it's like, you're smarter than your sister, you're just smarter in different ways. And I think they had to come up
Right.
with a way to say that to me, and get me to understand that was the hard part for them, and that helped
When
me in the long run.
So when my kids were growing up, they grew up in a small town in Kansas, and sometimes teachers would not realize that my daughters were the younger sibling of my son because they had different last names. So they would not realize at first that that was their older brother. But when they did, then they would be like, oh, you're Mario's. And there was this one teacher who, whenever she saw my daughters, would never talk to them about them, but always want to know about my son. And it drove my daughters crazy. They were like, what? Like, she always comes up and wants to know, oh, how's he doing? What's he up to? And I was like, I'm really sorry. Like, that sucks. It sucks to be the younger sibling. That kind of stuff is put on you. But it also puts, like, sometimes pressure on a kid that you don't do to them as a parent, but they think you might feel a certain way towards them. So like with my youngest daughter, she really struggled with high school, but it was due to social issues that was causing her to struggle, with studying and stuff like that. Because how high school can be. The bullying, there was other things going on. She was, there was just really bad things going on that I didn't know about, because when you're a teenager, you do not always tell your parents everything, no matter how close you are to them. So she was not telling me everything. And I'm really glad that I didn't make her tell me everything in order to help her, because she came to me just crying one day and told me, I can't finish high school. And she thought I would be bitterly disappointed in her because of how wildly successful her brother was at school. And I was like, I have a high school diploma. I don't have a college degree, but I think I'm a pretty smart person. I still read books. I still educate myself. I don't think that education in and of itself makes you a valuable person or not a valuable person. I think that if I could do it all over again, I would have gone to college, but I didn't. I didn't go to college. But it doesn't lessen the value of who I am as a person, So, of course, I just hugged her and told her, GED is an option, and it's it's equivalent to a high school diploma these days, and you don't have to finish high school if it is making it so unbearable for you to even function. Like, and now I'm not gonna love you less because your brother went to MIT and you got a GED. What the hell? Like, why would that be? You know what I mean? Like, why would that be the part that makes me go, oh, sorry, you're not my, you just moved a few rungs down.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, and it's also it really helps to know that your parents are human too. Like as a child, I think you look at your parents and you really put them on a pedestal in a lot of ways, whether they're good or bad. You see them as this like protector, older figure, and whether you like it or not, you look up to them in a lot of ways, And so, like when I came,
Right.
and I went to college and I was like, this is the worst. Like, I hate it. It costs so much money. I despise being here. I love to sing. I love being a musician. And I've never been involved with something that makes me hate being a musician so much and makes me hate doing what I love so much. And makes me embarrassed about being what I love so much that I don't want to do it anymore, and I can't do it anymore. And so when I just told myself like I can't do this anymore, and I just pulled the plug like a semester in, I felt like a total failure, And I was like, I got to walk away from this. And I mean, I knew my dad's background a little bit, but I didn't know a whole lot. When I learned that like he didn't go to college, like he went to the Navy, it made me feel a lot better about myself, and knowing that, he didn't use the traditional means of going his way, and he has a great successful family and was able to provide for all of us. And I mean, my mother worked too, of course, but I'm just saying, like, he was a very successful and one of the smartest people I know, and he never went to college. So that makes me feel really good, and to know those things, and I think that they, as a parent, you kind of withhold those little truths because you want the best for your kids, and ultimately, when you crunch the numbers, that college is ultimately the best outcome, or will hopefully provide the best outcome for your kids. So you do the best you can with the advice you have, and you push for those things. But ultimately, when the rubber meets the road, you have to make the best call for your kids' psyche and for their self-esteem, I think. And I think that's where my parents, had to make that call. And being that my mother was from an educational background, they very much wanted me to go to college and to get those degrees and things like that. And I'm just so happy that I didn't go that route and I went that way. And I talk to my wife about it often, because my sister now, has those degrees and is a high school teacher, and her husband is a high school teacher, and they have kids. And I mean, I love my sister to death, but oftentimes I feel like she's just absolutely miserable. and
Yeah.
and I don't mean to judge her in that way, but I feel like her life became less about living and more about checking boxes. About, okay, check my box to get this degree. Okay, check this box, I got a house. Okay, check this box, I'm married. Okay, check this box, I got kids. Like, it just became a list of things to accomplish rather than accomplishing them for yourself and about
Right.
making yourself feel good. And I think it's kind of this American dream trap that a lot of people fall into, is that you don't get to have a dream in America unless you have certain things in your back pocket, and those certain things are degrees and careers and houses and kids.
Right.
And I
And
think
those just
that
things aren't true.
yeah, and I think nowadays it's unreasonable to expect everybody to check those boxes. We know that college now puts people in debt for life, like ridiculously in debt. No matter what they do, they can't seem to get out of it. And the jobs aren't there to make, like, before you would get a degree, it would cost, like back when my parents were younger and stuff, maybe even when I was old enough to go to school, you paid whatever, $10,000, $20,000 for your bachelor degree or your, whatever degree. And the job that you got more than paid for that when you got out of college. But that's not how it is anymore. And so telling every child that they still need to go to college is telling every child you need to be indebted for life, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, it is absolutely crazy. And when I compare, my life to my sister's life and just kind of the way I look at things, I often find myself in many situations where I find myself far more happy and far more content with the decisions that I made. Now, I'm not trying to say I know how she feels, and I'm sure she's quite happy, and I love her to death, don't get me wrong in that sense.
Right.
And I'm sure she's accomplished everything she wants to accomplish. And there's not very many people who can say that they had their secondary schools, paid for via scholarship. I mean, my sister got the
Right.
James Monroe scholarship. I mean, I don't know very many people who were able to do that. So, she did those great things, but she still lives in Wyoming in the middle of nowhere. Like
Right,
girl, I
right,
love
right.
you, but I thought you were going to go to Princeton, and I thought you were going to go
Yeah,
to an Ivy League school, and these are the kind of the grand designs I had for you, so, but that's just me, and it's her life, and she wants to live it her way. So and that's what I've always thought, that's the best thing you can do for yourself, is live your life the way you want to live it and make yourself happy, and that's really the best thing you can do, I think,
absolutely.
within reason, of course. As long as you're
Absolutely.
following. Yeah.
Hey, Ruby, how are you today? Can I get your age for TikTok purposes?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Ruby, and I'm 26. Is that
Are you
okay?
are you a believer?
I used to be, but not anymore. Now I'm an atheist.
Okay, we are all atheists too. I just wanted you to know that. So if you were a
Oh,
believer, I didn't
nice.
want you to feel ganged up on. Well,
Oh,
I
nice.
can't speak for everybody, but we're not believers of the biblical Bible. I don't know, Schley, Tracy, and Big T, if you believe in something else, if you're pagans or witches or anything like that. But we're not believers of the Abrahamic Bible. And so we're talking today on, does God want us to unite? Because we were talking about how, like in the Tower of Babel, it doesn't seem like he really wants us to be united as a people. And we were talking about how the Bible's family values don't really line up with what Christians always tell us that, family values are. So if you have any thoughts on that, please share them with us. We'd love to hear.
Okay, so before I start, Krista, I don't think you remember me because I changed my profile pic.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, Ruby. I recognized your voice, and I'm like, I don't want to assume this is her, but
No,
I think
it's
she's
me.
from African Atheist Live.
Yeah.
You guys,
Yeah.
this is my friend Ruby. I didn't know for sure if it was her because she changed her profile picture, but you guys will love her. She is so funny. I love her. She's so
Oh,
smart
thank
and
you.
so funny.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Queen
Thank
Batty.
you.
How are you? So yeah, this is my friend Schley, Tracy, and Big T, and this is
Okay,
Ruby.
hi.
Hey, Ruby.
Hello, nice to meet you, Schley. Oh, that's a cool name, Schley. It's like Slay, but with a little pizzazz. Schley. Hi, Schley. Hi, Tracy. Hi, Big T. Nice to meet you guys.
Hello.
So
I love
Hi.
you.
everybody, make sure you follow Ruby because she's
Oh,
amazing.
thanks, Crystal. Thank you. So, if I can give my, 2 cents or how you would say, I don't think God would like humans to unite because if they do, then they start to question Him. Like He's already teaching the people following Him to um reject if it's your family member that doesn't believe in God, you should reject them because they don't believe in God and they're of the devil. So I don't think he would want us to unite because if we unite, the other people might start to see reasoning why as to why God is not so powerful and so mighty as they make him to be. Like there's no I don't think, unless I'm wrong, there's no instance in the Bible that I know of God speaking of like good family values. It's always you need to stand against your family. In order for you to truly love me, you need to rebuke your family. Just really mean things. Or it's okay to go to like to separate other people's family. Separate is putting it very thin, by the way. Like, horrible. I honestly think God is a creep. Like, he's a really creepy person. If he's real,
He
he's a creep.
is.
Yeah.
He's really creepy. And I did see a couple places where I know Christians would point out family values. I was saying earlier, like when it says, women, obey your husbands, they will think that is a good thing. For me, not so much. I don't think that spouses should have to be obedient to each other. I think that the message
Yeah.
should have been that we should communicate and love each other. But a lot of the times Thinker points out how marriage in the Bible was never about love. It was always about a contractual obligation. You don't see two people falling in love in the Bible, and then they will say that the good family values for children are where they say, again, children, be obedient to your parents. But all I see is obedience. I don't see where it says to, it does one time say you should financially support your family. Like if you don't provide for your family, you are, you are like going against God. But it doesn't say that you should support each other and love each other and build each other up. And what I see as family values, that's what I see as family values. In my family, I don't really talk to my brothers and sisters and cousins and aunts and uncles. I kind of quietly went no contact with them. You know what I mean? Where I didn't make some kind of announcement, but they never really call me or check on me. So I just stopped doing that with them, and I live a much happier life now. But my family, my husband and my children and my grandchild and stuff, we really support each other. We have a family chat that is, ongoing, and we lift each other up and everything. And then we share each other's goals and achievements, and we're there for each other for all the sorrows and all the hard times too. And I think that's what real family values are. Ruby, what did you want to say?
Oh, just if you're done, I just wanted you to know that I want to add a bit to what you're saying.
Oh yeah, I'm done. Go
I
ahead.
go? Oh, okay. So, like you said, the Christians that would want to bring up the part where it says women obey your husband, like that's like you said before, that's not really family value. Like God is for like hierarchy, like he's teaching the wives to obey their husbands, and in turn the kids have to obey their parents, and all those people have to obey God. Like it's like God comes first, after the husband, then the mom. Maybe if they have like I don't know, but like that's a topic for another day. Like women being looked down upon, but here that does not promote family value. No, it's just
No,
teaching his own idea of love. The in order for you to love me, you need to obey me. Like that's not love. That is not love in
it's not.
my view, anyways.
I think that blind obedience is not love, and I think that that's more what the Bible teaches is just obedience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, again, another thing I taught my children is that they were always allowed to question me. Okay, I wanted them to be able to question authority. I find that to be very important, because if we don't, we are doomed, to horrific things in life. If you can't question a police officer, if you can't question a politician, you are doomed to be abused and oppressed as a people. So if I don't teach my children that they could question me, how would they ever question their teacher or their principal or their pastor or somebody else who they felt was doing something wrong. Does that make sense? So they were allowed to question me, because if I'm really doing something loving and good for them, then I should be able to explain why I'm asking them to do something or why I am disciplining them. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. Like, I think guilty people or people that are not so good, they don't like to be questioned, because then you might actually find out the truth. Like, you might actually see what they're hiding behind the curtain, you know?
Right. And I felt that a lot of times my mom used to always say, because I told you so. Okay. And I hated that as a child. Oh, I really hated when she would say, because I told you so. I wanted to know, like, why can't I sleep over at my friend's house? So with
Yeah, like, tell
me,
them there's a creepy uncle there, you cannot go. Then they will know next time. If that
thank
uncle
you,
looks at
right?
them weird, like, it's like, oh, mom, that uncle looked at me and you said he was creepy. But we go
Ex-
through life just hiding and, like, pretending, trying to, like, sugarcoat everything. And in turn,
Yep.
our kids are in more danger. And Krista, sorry for cutting you off. Like, that was,
No, you're good.
yeah.
You're allowed to do that in here. We're good. Hey, Vintage Witch, this is my friend Ruby. Ruby, Vintage Witch is awesome, my friend.
Hi.
You
Hi,
guys should follow each
Vintage
other.
Witch.
Both amazing
Hey.
people. What are your thoughts on the topic today, Vintage Witch?
I think a lot of the family values are a little bit screwed, especially when it comes to discipline of kids, and then also how women are treated. I don't think it's a very morally based in values at all. Not one bit. No. Oh, and also too, Crystal, just to let you know, we started a new religion called Gingeranity, based off the gingerbread man, and it's going to be a thing. Yeah. Oh, I converted 12. We converted 12 souls today to our Lord and yeah, Tracy.
Praise not be blessed.
I know our Lord and Savior, the Muffin Man, and our one true God, the Dough God.
I
Yeah.
have to
Yummy.
say, I haven't laughed that hard in a while. Like the other day, I popped in. Tracy invited me, and your little gingerbread face, and you were like screaming about something. I just died. I died, and I really needed that laugh. So yes, praise the ginger.
Yeah, I was cooking. Well, I was in Lori's live, and I had the gingerbread as my like picture or whatever. And Dark Dawkins came into Lori's live. Yes, and I was just the gingerbread man making faces, like what he was saying. And then like everyone in the comments was like, "Just wait, Vintage is about to bake him." I was like,
Oh my God, that is awesome. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, so because how like you do the other lives. Well, like I was reading
Yes.
scripture as the gingerbread man with the chimp munchkin voice, and I just said, "Our Lord and Baker." That's right, Deconstruction. Our Lord and Baker, the way, the truth, and the light. Yes, absolutely.
Oh
And
my
he's going to
God,
glaze
that's
you.
hilarious.
Yeah, yeah. And then you got the evil snickerdoodle who's trying to salt the earth with its evil.
Oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to join you for a live so I can check out your religion. DC,
Yeah.
why can't I invite you up? Are you bananaed right now or something? I want to invite you up, but I can't for some reason. But
No, he's not banana.
I thought
Why can't I
I don't
invite
know
him
if he
up?
got in trouble because the live yesterday, or not.
Did it get
but-
spicy?
Well, I was talking about Project 2025 and then showing like some of the leaked videos. So I don't know if that's
Huh.
DC
Well,
was
DC
just up earlier in Lori's life.
You requested? Okay, let me look. Maybe that's why I couldn't invite you. It says invited. I'm gonna uninvite
am I
and then
delayed?
request back. Okay, request back up, DC, because for some reason maybe it's glitching or something. Do any of you with mod powers, are you able to invite DC up?
Let me
Can
see.
you check?
I sent an invitation.
Okay.
Well, Crystal, I was gonna talk to you about the "Does God unite" part if we have time.
Absolutely. We have time. I just want to hang out and talk about these things today.
Well, I have a very tenuous grasp on the Bible at best, if any. So I was kind of looking at it from a broader sense, and I thought it might be an interesting way to approach it and ask the panel a couple questions about it. So when I looked up the definition of unite, the Oxford Dictionary says come or bring together for a common purpose or action. So I guess I would have to ask, what is the common purpose or action the Bible or God would be bringing people together for? Because I don't think the
Now is the
denominations could
time
agree.
to.
You know what I'm saying? Could
DC.
any two Christians agree on what that purpose or action would actually
Wow.
be?
That
Yeah,
is
well,
really good question.
I think that's right. DC is onto something. Just like, are we just supposed to be like not robots here on Earth, but like, okay, as soon as we die and go to heaven, or I'm sorry, unalive, that's when we turn into the robots and we're just like worship machines? Also, you would think he would give us all music abilities if that was right, because I can't sing for shit.
Yeah, that's what we're created for. We're gonna be singing forever. It's gonna be like going to like a Church of Christ. I don't know if you guys ever been to a Church of Christ.
No, I
It
wasn't
Like a bunch
sounds
allowed
of
not
old
to.
fun.
people.
I was
Yeah, it's
No,
just a
I
bunch of
know,
old
right,
people
Ruby?
without
That
any
doesn't
music.
sound like if anything, I would want to go to hell because that's where the real party is, you know. In heaven, you just put on the white robe and you're dancing and singing. That does not sound like fun. No one wants to
No.
do that. Like, mm-mm.
You have an electric guitar in your worship service, you're not of God.
And listen, if we do, like, let's say we all go to heaven. Okay, all of us here, sitting here. Okay, we're all in heaven right now, and we're all singing. I don't want to sing like white churches sing. I'm sorry. I want Sister Act. You know what I'm talking
Oh
about?
my
I want to
god.
get up there and really, and I don't think it's going to be like that. I think we're all going to be going, amazing. You know, I think it's going to be,
Oh.
yeah. I don't want
Yeah, the
I
that.
singers have
don't.
like the
I cannot. It
goat
sounds
voices.
legit like a cult.
Yeah,
I
but like
sing
for
for
eternity.
people at the bar.
I want those ladies that I don't
That would
want
be hell, Schley. It
nobody
means you want to go
fucking
with
with
me to hell because
me
there's
in these
lit.
streets.
No, it reminds me of that third day or whatever. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. Whatever his name was.
Maybe we're gonna be like the Gaithers. Does anybody remember the Gaithers?
Yes, I love
can
the
sing a
Gaithers.
little
Sometimes I still
bit.
listen to it.
Oh my
Hey,
goodness, no.
I'm an old
I can
soul. I'm an old soul.
I can
But
sing.
yeah,
I'm entitled.
Let's hear you, Vintage. Sing
Now?
us something.
Oh,
You-
okay. Hold on.
Vintage.
You cannot be
Yes,
vintage
Ain't
I
no
remember
for the love
mountain
of
Carmen.
God.
high, ain't no valley low, ain't no river wide enough, baby.
Ooh. Whenever you
if you
call
need
me.
me, call me.
No
No matter
where you are, no matter how far, just call my name. I'll be there
I'll
in
be
a
there in a
hurry.
hurry.
Don't
You
have to
don't have to
worry.
worry, 'cause baby, there
There
ain't
ain't
no
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 mountain
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 high.
high
high
enough.
enough. Ain't no river wide enough.
Okay, I have to tell you
Get
that
it.
that song is what I sing to. I sing that song to my kids because I always felt like that. Like, you know what? If anything, if they ever need me, I would cross any mountain. You know, I would cross any river, whatever. But yeah, I always loved that song for my kids. I never thought of it like a romantic song. Okay. So I really think the Big T brought up a big, huge point. What do you guys think? If unite means to bring together for one like common thing, is it just to sing in heaven forever, or was like they make it seem like God wants us to unite for love, like to love each other? But I don't think so. What are
Yeah,
your guys' thoughts on that?
it's a very exclusive love if that's the case, because guess who's not included? Anybody that's different from them, that questions any, like, it doesn't, you can't, I don't feel like it's a true definition of the word if you're excluding people for who they are, you know?
Right.
Exactly.
If the goal was to unite, then denominations would not be a thing, because the very fact that you're making denominations is separating Christians from other Christians, when the idea is you're trying to unite people into one common idea. Whatever that idea may be, the idea that you have to come up with different denominations and different ways of going about that, in and of itself, defeats the purpose of the uniting of one another, I guess.
And also
Well,
the fact that
the beasts need to know vintage. The beasts need to know who to eat in the feast of the Lord.
with Gingerinity,
No, I'm talking. Remember the guy we were talking about? He was talking about the feast of the Lord in Ezekiel.
God. Yeah, he was trying to say that has to reference the Lord's Supper, and that has nothing to do with the Lord's Supper. When Ezekiel's literally boasts Babylon exile, it's about Babylon and the exile of Babylon, and it was.
He was talking about the feast of the Lord, where the animals are eating his, like, the enemies of God.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous,
the
and
animals
then
got
he
to
got
know
rude.
who to eat. The animals got to know who to eat. That's why he wants us divided.
Yep, that is true. But that guy was absolutely ridiculous. He got rude with me when I started shutting him down. I was like, listen, don't bring out the spicy ginger now. Come on.
You know, talking about like the different denominations, there's even so much division inside each church. I don't know. Most of you know that I grew up Methodist, and then as an adult, I went to a Quaker church. I wouldn't say I became Quaker because I did not actually like become a Quaker, but I liked this church, so we attended it for many years. And at one point, we were a part of a small group. Now, I realized that the small group we were a part of had a lot of prominent people in the church in that small group, but I didn't think much of that. I just wanted to go to the small group Bible studies and events that they were having, and we were invited, and we became very much part of that group, not realizing that I was becoming a part of a clique. Okay, like I wasn't seeing that at the time, until one day they said something about, oh, that's the cancer section, and I said, what? And somebody in the group was like, yeah, that area in the church where all those people sit every Sunday is known as the cancer section. And what I didn't realize, like, I really never got this because I'm so dumb, but that people had certain places that they sat every week. Like, that was their pew and their place, right? And I just would go in and sit wherever there was room. I never thought about, like, I need to sit right here every week. But as they said this, I realized that that's what they were saying, that there was this group of people who always sat in this one section every time. And they were the cancer section because they were the people who held the board of elders to do what they were supposed to do. They were the ones who questioned the pastor if he was not being, upright. They were the ones who were not going to allow people to bring the church down. And because of that, all the cool kids in the church called them the cancer section. And guess what that made me do? It made me go sit in the cancer section after that. I was like, what on earth? You guys actually don't like these people because they make you be better people? Like, they don't allow you to misuse the church funds. They don't allow you to, I don't know, abuse your position in the church. And so you call them the cancer section? What a horrible name, right?
Yeah, it's pretty terrible. You
Well,
know,
and it just keeps.
kind of to
Oh,
tie it in
sorry,
with your
TC.
Genesis. Oh no, you're good. I was just gonna say to tie it in with your Genesis 11. Remember in the Tower of Babel, and he's like, if they all spoke in one language, now that they speak in one language, anything they put their mind to, they could do whatever they want.
Right.
Like that's why he doesn't want us to be united. I feel like
Right.
he wants us to.
Yeah,
be
you're right. He. Wait, what you got, Casey?
Hi, Crystal.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Casey.
Hi.
You were talking about seats. Our pastor didn't like that idea that everybody sat in their seats. So he would like include it into the sermon that everybody had to like move up to the front. And then like he would tell, like we had a team, you know, that was part of the inner circle, I guess you could say. And he would teach them to greet people and then ask them to move up front. I hated that.
Oh
Always
yeah.
sat in the back.
Well, I hid in the boiler room. So
I did.
nobody could find me.
Well, my grandparents, we went to this Presbyterian church, and there was probably like maybe 15, 20 people that attended the church. And most of the time, I didn't even have to sit through the sermon. Like, I would just be like, hey, I'm going to go elsewhere. And I would just go upstairs and practically sleep the whole time because they had this little attic thing where I'd be playing in the nursery because they knew I didn't like it. But I mean, of course, I went, but I didn't really care much for any of it. So, yeah, but as far as like what Big T was saying is, you know, the churches are completely segregated. I mean, like if we talk about the difference between 43,000 different denominations, and like when Christians say, oh, well, Christianity is the one true religion, I said it's the most backwards religion even to exist. Like out of all, like if you look at all the polytheistic, you know, spiritual, you know, types, especially with the gods and goddesses, Hindus, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, right? I mean, each god has their own, or goddess has their own description of what represents something in the world, and it's a nature-based practice. But within Christianity, you have all 43,000 different denominations, and you have Christians that argue with each other. Like, you know, it's like if your religion was so pure and so innocent, I was like, then, you know, why would you argue with someone else that is in your feet? You tell other Christians they're going to hell. You tell other Christians they're not one true Christians because they read the Bible and interpret it differently than you are. But you want us to join a cult that can't even get along with each other.
Perfect example. At end of Mark 3, where Jesus was sitting with his like disciples or whatever, and his mother and brothers came over to, you know, they apparently needed him for something. I'm not sure what it was, but he basically rebuked his mom and brothers, or the person that told him about it, and said, you know, these are my mother and brothers. Like, what the fuck kind of unity is that? Like, you're like, why would you say something like that with your, why couldn't you say, just hold on one second, mother? Instead of that, he just said, you know, he rebuked.
This is my family now.
Yeah, like why would you like put them, like, that was another thing that pissed me off about the church, like that whole pecking order thing. God first, blah 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 blah, everything second, and, you know, third, fourth, and fifth. It doesn't make any damn sense. Like,
No, it doesn't.
like if you were gonna put God first, like, that's like, number one, that's imaginary. So how can you even put anything like that first? And then your wife second. I looked at whenever he was talking like that, I just said, I don't know how you could put your wife second, or even look at her in the eye and say, hey, you're second. It doesn't.
I bet she gave you side eye. I bet she gave you side eye and said, don't you dare. Don't you dare. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
I wouldn't be anywhere without my wife, like 100%. I would be a nobody, a nothing. a bum on the street, probably. I say that with all confidence. So I don't know how I could put anybody else but her first.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I just found out that my old pastor was on. Right now, he's on sabbatical, and he's been like texting me recently, like trying to make amends, I guess. And I just won't talk to him, But he's on a sabbatical because he's having marital trouble, and like I have to admit, I'm pretty fucking happy about that.
That's not so godly of you.
The way he treated her, I'm surprised it lasted this long. I mean, it was terrible.
Oh, I have dreams about telling off my father-in-law because I am disgusted at how he speaks to my mother-in-law.
Oh, my ex-father-in-law still has my name in his mouth, and I'm friends with my ex-husband's wife, Genevieve. You guys probably seen her pop in and out some, and we don't like him. Like, I think that's the one thing that bonded us together was the simple fact of we have the father-in-law of hell, and he is always comparing me to or comparing her to me, and like she sent me the text messages that, and, oh, by the way, he's a prophet of God. He's completely delusional and the most insane person to ever walk in the street. And on top of that, he's supposed to be a registered SA offender. He's literally a spedophile, right? We call him Spedo Steve. That's his nickname. Well, I literally went in. I have balls, and I said, you know what? I am so sick of him freaking talking about me. So I literally went on his Facebook page and I commented, listen here, Spedo Steve, like, did I touch my stepdaughter all over the public page? Leave my name out of your mouth. Just leave me alone. I'm not married to your son. Why are you bringing me into this stuff? You know what I mean? Like, just stop. Like, and what ruined even though like me and Carrie had our issues, the biggest thing that ruined our marriage was his father and his family. And that's 2 wives that walked out on him because he could not put his wife first. He did, and I held him up to biblical standards, and he didn't like it. I said, well, this is what the Bible says. This is how you got to act as a husband. I mean, you know what I mean? And I held him those standards, but he didn't want to be. Now he doesn't go to church anymore, and now he barely goes around his dad. So, like, Genevieve said that he completely changed and finally sees what his father's actually doing too. So and then like he told, like, the way he treats women is the most misogynistic Christian view of how on how women should act. It's crazy. Like like a lot of Christian men, even being in panels, still just literally prove as to why, 1, women should stay away from Christianity, 2, they should not date you and everything, because there is no real family values whatsoever. Because technically you're still supposed to take, so like you got a wife who's fighting, okay, like you got a man who's supposed to put God above his wife, right? So, like, now you got a wife who's supposed to be submissive, stay at the low door. But then also it says in the Bible that you're supposed to take care of your family and your elders as well. So it's like there's no real balance or construction in any aspects of in a Christian marriage or the religion within itself as far as family values go. Because in the Bible it says that you're supposed to conform to your wife. So you got God, your wife comes first, and then now that your immediate family is now your secondary family. But at the same time, you still have to put them as well and take care of the elderly, or some sense like that, the way it was explained to me.
You know what it did too? It like gave you permission to just say, hey, God wants me to do this over something else, which, and that doesn't cause unity. You know what I mean?
No.
Right.
No. It causes division and a lot of problems, especially when you see that a lot of the male patriarchy inside of Christianity causes more harm ever upon family units, upon women, upon children. Like, nothing good comes out of it.
Vintage, get this one. They used to do like a podcast, my old pastor and his wife, and it was like an embarrassment. Like not only did he like shame her personally, like just one-on-one, I mean, it was publicly.
That's crazy.
Like they did in the middle of a podcast where they could have edited something out even, and like he left it in there.
Why?
Oh, it's so
Like you
gross.
guys, if you want, you could look it up. I mean, it's all over the place. It's my old church was Generations House of Worship, and you'll see like his face is all over it. So like I don't want to say his name, but the old church was Generations House of Worship.
I'm going
So
right now.
you can look it up and listen to one sermon, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's ridiculous.
Like my business got spread around church all the time by my ex-in-laws, and I was like, what goes on is no one's freaking business. Like, what are we in high school? Was it Mean Girls Club or something? I mean, like, don't.
So do you guys know very much about the Quaker religion? Anybody know very much about it?
Very little.
I came across it,
I know
but
a
I didn't
little
read
bit
deep
about it.
into it.
All right, I'm going to tell you a little story about the Quaker religion. So my son had a gifted teacher. She worked with him from the time that he was in first grade until the time he was in sixth grade. And my daughter had her too for a while. So we became very good friends. And we'll call her Heather. And Heather was also a Quaker, but we didn't, like, she didn't go to our church. And one day I was just asking her about it, and she said she really didn't like to go to the church anymore because of open worship. So Quakers have a thing that they do at the beginning of their worship service where they feel that it should be opened up to allow anybody to speak, because the Spirit, can speak through anybody. And so maybe God has given you a word that week and you need to, share it with the members. But what open worship becomes sometimes is just weird. So Heather said that at the time she was in like high school, and she was a very good girl, if you know what I'm trying to say, purity culture, right? And she had been dating a young man, like she was like 17 or 18 at the time. And she had been dating a young man, and they had broke up, but like it had been a very recent breakup, and she didn't make a big, public display of it or anything. So people knew they dated, but she never came out and said, oh, me and Tommy broke up or anything. Anyway, during open worship one week, Tommy decides to stand up and confess that he had premarital sex and got a girl pregnant. And every single person thought that that was Heather. And so she was so humiliated by this thing. And open worship isn't supposed to be where you stand up and confess. But that is the kind of weird shit that people used it for. So Heather could never go to a Quaker church after that. She just couldn't bear listening to the open worship. But yeah, that's a weird thing in the Quaker church, y'all.
Quakers were actually victims of the witch hunts. I knew a new Quaker from somewhere studying into the witch hunts, and I was like, Quaker, Protestants. What? My brain was like rambling. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. They were, in fact, victims in persecution of the witch hunts.
Why were they victims? Like, why would they be victims? Other than they're very passive.
Yeah, that's why, because they were pacifists. That's one of the reasons. Is the Quakers were a Protestant branch of George Fox in the 17th century, and because they were pacifists and they didn't align with the view at the time that was, or whatever, 2 Quakers, in fact, were inspected for witch marks since 1656. One in Rhode Island, and then the colonial authorities also, the Quakers of Massachusetts were whipped, scourged, and also had their ears sliced and diced by many colonial authorities. Anything, I guess, that didn't fit that narrative at the time, you were persecuted and tortured, even as a Christian. Yeah,
Quakers would not go after the witches and unalive them, because So the Quakers' passiveness is this: it's you do not unalive at any cost. Even, and I told this story the other day. Even if you are personally being attacked, or your family is about to be unalived, you don't, because you know that you are going to heaven, and that perpetrator, should they live, has a chance to repent and still go to heaven. So at no cost do you ever unalive somebody, even to save your own life. Quakers are also called Quakers because people believed that they were so religious that they quaked in their boots.
Yeah, there's a lot of backlash, and there's some history with these Quakers. I mean, with the Quakers in general, and some are just. Well, I'll just add that to my list of true crime Christianity.
Quakers are known as Friends, by the way. That's so. If you ever see a Friends church, like Santa Ana Friends Church, that's a Quaker church.
I think it's because a lot of their beliefs were so different.
That sounds really weird. What do you mean friends? Like, no, we're not friends, but that's a nice name though. Dude, that sounds so culty. Like, oh, welcome to Friends. No.
Yeah, it does sound culty. You're right.
Like, that's a friend.
Just let us love you, Ruby.
You got a friend in me. When the road looks tough ahead and you're miles and miles from your nice warm bed.
Oh man, now that song is always. Go ahead, Ruby.
Okay, I just just been listening to you guys, and like a lot of the points you guys were making, like it's very funny. Pastors, people always think, oh, Christians, not people, Christians. They always think like, oh, they get their sermons from the Holy Spirit. No, it's from a beef they had 5 years ago, or like if their wife pisses them off, all of a sudden it's the disrespectful so and so, or the disrespectful daughter, or they just try to guilt trip the audience will not know something is wrong, but the person they're speaking to, they would know. Like they would just there, and the pastor is like, oh, I used to hate that. I hated that. Like, oh, I cannot. And also the church teaches a lot of like the Christianity religion, it disagrees a lot. Like the denominations disagrees a lot, but there are like two things they agree on. Not being divorced, like saying no to divorce, even if they are chopping your tiny toes off, like you should stay there. And also like respecting your husband, and also like God, like it's really weird. They disagree on almost everything, the way they interpret the Bible. But when it comes to the marital values, it's like, yeah, this is the hill we're going to on our life. I'm like, let's stay here. Let's all agree on this. Like, it's so weird because it's at the risk of the ladies. Like the guys, they're okay. Like this, I don't know if you guys heard of this pastor in America that his wife unalived, but some people think he did. Yeah, like, did anyone see the sermon he preached like before? That was a weird way of talking. That was really weird. Like,
yeah, and I saw an interview with him too, and he was really weird in that interview too. Do you guys know who who's? Yeah. And he did an interview not very long ago. I don't remember when, so you could probably look it up. While I cannot say that he actually unalived her, I do feel that even if she did it herself, he drove her to it. Exactly. Does that make sense?
I agree with that.
Hi, Deal Break. Can I get your age for TikTok purposes?
Hi, I am over 40.
All right. And are you a believer?
I'm not a believer. Are you only looking for believers?
No, you don't have to be a believer. I didn't want you to feel ganged up on if you were a believer, because nobody up here is a believer.
Okay. No, I'm not a believer.
Did you want to share anything on the topics I have today?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on your topic. Does God want us to unite? What are your biblical family values? I wanted to say that this is one of the things that my
Hang on one sec. Hang on one second. You got red bars. Give it a second, and let's see if your connection gets a little bit better, because we can't hear you right now. But give it a second, because a lot of times it clears up. You guys, while we're waiting for that to clear up, can you guys in chat tap the screen and try to get me to like 15,000 likes today? I'd really appreciate it, and maybe share out the live to a couple of people. Dang it. You know what? Let me drop you down, deal breaker, and then bring you right back up, okay? Maybe that'll clear it up. Oh, wait, no. You're good now.
Okay.
You're good now. Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say that's one of the things that led to my deconstruction when I was a Christian. I did, and then I'm also saying it now that I kind of walked away from the faith. It's so many scriptures in the Bible where, in the New Testament, where Jesus tells you have to leave your mother and father for me. And, I don't know if you all familiar with what I'm talking about, but
yeah,
I can remember being a Christian and reading those verses and was very, very confused on why would someone tell you that you need to leave your mother and father and, sister, brother. He came to bring, basically division between mother-in-law against daughter-in-law, all these things. And it was just like a division of the family and all over this belief system. And now that I'm deconstructed from the belief system, I see how harmful that is, because when you are not part of this faith or this belief system, a lot of times the family don't understand, especially in my community where it's really a heavy presence of, and where I currently live, in the Bible Belt, it's a religious town. And so I see how if you're not part of that community, you can be kind of an outcast, because
oh yeah,
you are and even when I was a Christian, you can be looked at as the Christianity demonizes anyone that doesn't believe in this God and Jesus. And if you're in this what I know now to be a cult, you are looked at as you're under the influence of Satan. You're going in the wrong direction. And a lot of times people don't want to socialize with you. And sometimes even your own family can do it, not so overtly, but it's like in subtle ways to where they're not coming around as much. If anyone knows kind of what I'm talking about there. But, yeah, I don't see this God bringing people and communities of people from different backgrounds together at all.
You're right. When I left the Quaker church in my small little town in Kansas, I almost told you guys the town, and I was still looking for a church. I was still a Christian. I would have people from that church see me at the supermarket. A lot of them avoided me after that. And it was like, just because I left the church, like suddenly we're not friends anymore. And I thought that was weird, because I would have never done that to any of my friends. Just because they don't want to go to my church anymore doesn't mean they're not my friend. What the heck? Like, you can go to a different church. But I literally would have church members come up to me and tell me, God still loves you. And, he still wants you to, come back to him. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I was still a Christian. Why would leaving your church mean I am no longer a Christian. Isn't that weird?
I had sorry.
No,
I had a
go
Christian
ahead.
threat. I had a Christian a couple months ago. Whenever I walk to the store, which is a short walk from my house, I always cut through the parking lot of the church. It's not illegal. And there's a little trail that leads down behind, which is, people use it all the time to cut off. And plus, there's no sidewalk, right? So I'm walking two dogs. I'm walking through a parking lot because it's a lot safer than someone just randomly kind of running me over. Well, I was walking back through the parking lot, and granted, these other two were super like nice. And we're like, oh, your dogs are so pretty. This other chick just chose violence. And I'm just over here like, you're going to threaten to call the cops on me because I'm walking through a public parking lot. It is not illegal. I'm a judge in this town. I can do whatever I want. Oh, so now you're abusing your right to authority to have me legally arrested, and I can just turn around and like sue you for it. Got it. And also have you barred.
That is so weird.
Yeah. And I was like, but nice Christian hypocrisy, ma'am. I was like,
Right?
won't you go in that church? She goes, oh, well, you have to be a member here to come through this parking lot. I said, no, it just says you can't park here. Doesn't say anything about not walking with two docile dogs through the parking lot. And like, my dogs were on a leash and very close to me. And they're really kind of friendly. And she was sitting there running her mouth to me as I continued to walk through the parking lot. I don't give two craps. And I just lifted my finger up in the air, flicking her off, and said, go talk to Jesus about it. Before he spits you out of his mouth, go read your Bible, ma'am. Like, it was bad. And the churches here in my town are still segregated.
Oh, yeah. There's so much segregation still in America. I was so oblivious to that because I grew up in Southern California. And then moving to Kansas, there's nothing to be segregated there because it's all whitey. Okay, there is no other colors in Kansas. Like, I mean, there are, but it is so far and few between. Okay, so I went down to Louisiana to visit my mom once, and I didn't know that they were still segregated in like Louisiana and stuff like that. And I was like, what on earth? Because it's not like that in California. I mean, not saying that there aren't areas where a town is primarily Hispanic or primarily black or but it's not like where there's still, there are bars you cannot go into unless you are white in New Orleans. You know what I mean? That was weird to me.
Well, one thing I wanted to take a moment to let everybody know is your rights when it comes to private property and trespassing. You must be given a trespassing notice before you're trespassed. So if you walk on the private property, you must be approached and be informed to leave. And if you do not leave, then you can be given a notice of trespassing. It must be in written writing or verbal most of the time. And then if you if you refuse to leave, then you can be given a write-up for trespassing. But only then can you be given that. The police cannot just write you up for trespassing for being on private property themselves.
It's not even really private property either. It's public property. Anyone can go to a church. That's the thing.
Exactly. And the other thing is that the police cannot solicit a trespass. They must be they have to be approached by the property owner to then give that trespass warning. So if a police officer approaches you with no provocation and then says they want to trespass you, they either need to have a written notice on file already from that private property, or they need to have been approached by that private property owner already. So they throw that around a lot, and I just like people to know that you do have to be given an opportunity to leave first before you're written up for trespassing. So
okay, Big T, how many times have you been trespassed?
Never, not once.
I'm just joking with you.
I'm one of those terrible, awful people who watch too many YouTube videos.
Oh.
Well,
You
it
know,
just says like private parking, right? So it says that it's
mhm.
private parking just for church members. Like my feet weren't parking anywhere, so
Yeah, and the other thing to remember too is that the police are not technically allowed to enforce traffic laws in a private parking lot. Parking lots are private property and therefore not subject to driving laws per se. I think it does depend on the state, but definitely want to
No,
check out that as well.
that's pretty true because one of my first accidents I had was somebody turning into a parking lot where I had been backing out of my parking space, and when they did, they slammed into the side of my car, and I didn't know I couldn't call the police, and it really bummed me. I was young, and I was so upset because they hit me. I want to go back to segregation for a minute because somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Obama once say that, like something to the fact that there is no like more clearer segregation than on a Sunday morning during church?
yep,
Yeah.
that's true.
So I don't see this God unifying people. I mean, with like condoning slavery and stuff in the book itself was just another way to not unite us. Like, I don't know. I just think that there's nothing unifying about this God.
I know I heard that the saying, but I never knew who actually said it. But you're correct. I actually live in Louisiana, and I think too that's one of the things when I moved to Louisiana. I know not even so much before I moved here, even when I lived in other places. There's still this terminology, the black church, because it's still segregated. You have your black church and you have your white church, and in the black, so you will hear, black people talk about the black church because that's where most predominantly black people, predominantly black. So it's like it's still very much segregated.
Yep. And that just doesn't seem like you would think that a God that was all powerful, all loving, all knowing would find a way to unify us. And we can't agree on denominations. We can't agree on doctrine. We can't even agree on the Trinity. We can't agree on his name. Some people are like, his name is not Jesus, it's Yeshua or whatever. We can't agree on anything about this book and about its teachings that bring us together.
And just to add in real quick, like it's not just about the, in America, yeah, of course, it's about the black church and like the white church, but in Africa, everyone like it's not black church and white. It's like, for example, insert this church's name and this other church is like, oh, he's fake, I'm the real one, and the other one is like, oh, he's fake, I'm the real. Like everybody is against everybody. It's really so sad. Like God, with his almighty power, he cannot just do this one thing, like bringing everybody together. Like I said again, he's a creep. Like he likes when people are fighting with each other. Very creepy
Yeah.
dude.
Sometimes, Ruby, this is fun, and you'll see it on African Atheist Live. Sometimes you will get we'll have 3 or 4 non-believers up there, and then a couple of Christians up there, and the Christians start fighting, and the rest of us just sit back and listen to them because they start going at each other.
Exactly. You see what I mean? Like it's not just everywhere when Christians, just in among themselves. Like just read a Bible verse and then tell them to discuss. Like there's going to be something not good.
I think the problem is that Christians think the Bible is up for interpretation. They don't read it like you would read a normal book. Nobody reads a book and interprets it. But the Bible, everybody wants to interpret the Bible. It's really weird.
It is really weird. I was watching Bitter Truth the other day on, let's see, was he with Chet and Justin? I know he was with Justin. I'm trying to remember who Justin's was on. But anyway, I think it was Chet, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, they were talking to him about Big T, just 1 second, I'll finish this and then you can go. Maybe it was Days. Chaos. I think you're right. It was Days. You are so right. And they were talking about whether that guy died in Megiddo or whether he died in Jerusalem. Do you guys know that story? Y'all familiar? I forget who it was, a king or something that died in Megiddo, but in another story he dies in Jerusalem. And the verse is really clear. It says he died. Hey, Low Steel, you want to come up? We're just chatting today. And the verse is really clear that he, died. And then they carried his body. And Bitter Truth is like, yeah, but it doesn't really mean he died. It means he was a dead man already. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't dead. It was just like he was dying, so they considered him a dead man. What are you talking about? He's dead, and they carried his body.
Yeah,
Like he was just practicing to be dead the first time, and the other time was like he was dead. Like sometimes they don't even use I don't think they have brains, but it's just like a residue of brain cells. They don't have any more brain cells because the arguments are really like, what do you mean he's dead? Like he wasn't dead. Like that does not make any sense.
Right? It's so ridiculous. And then when he's losing an argument, if you guys haven't seen Bitter Truth yet, y'all, if you ever see him on live, stick around. You'll get a good entertainment value out of it. But I personally can't stand when Joyful pulls him up. I'm like, no, this is going to be horrible. Anyway, he'll say, okay, well, I just cooked you on that. What are you talking about? You didn't cook anybody. You didn't prove anything. All you did was reinterpret the Bible and make up new definitions for words. What on earth? And that is one thing. Maybe I should make a prompt that says, do words have definitions? Maybe that should be my next prompt. Because in case you guys haven't seen it, Christians just make up definitions to words. Words just mean whatever they want them to mean. Oh, go ahead, Big T. I forgot.
Oh, it's okay. I was just kind of looking into that 11 o'clock Sunday morning is the most segregated time in America quote. And whoa, that is a highly controversial quote as far as the who is attributed to that quote. Several sources are given credit for that, but actually, ultimately, they say that it originated on November 14th, 1952, by Dr. Helen Kenyon, former moderator of the Congregation of Christian Churches, who called 11 o'clock Sunday morning the most segregated time in America. The Plain Dealer, which is Kansas City, Kansas, page 5, column 4, the Sunday 11 a.m. is the most segregated hour article. So, yeah, it actually got mentioned many times all the way back in 1952, then again in November of 52. Actually, they really attributed the quote for a long time to Martin Luther King Jr., and then James Baldwin was quoted as attributing it to Malcolm X at one point. There's several very prominent figures in history who do use that quote. So I just thought it might be interesting for everyone to know that there's lots of people who have it, and Obama being one who used it, but many used it. So
that's very telling to me that it was originally used in 1952, and it is still the most segregated time. What on earth? How is this religion a unifying religion? if it is still after 60, almost 70 years, 60 plus years, we're still so segregated on Sunday mornings,
I mean, and the quote is like so attributed by so many people that at one point in time it was introduced into the congressional record on August 3rd, 1953, and was attributed to a totally different person, Maureen
Oh,
Johnson.
wow.
Charles Johnson's wife quoted her as saying, "Still, 11 o'clock Sunday morning is the most sacred hour of American life." So it
Wow.
just really blew up and was very a prominent quote during the civil rights movement, I would say.
That's crazy. And, speaking of Sunday mornings, I wanted to tell you guys all something that I just heard through the grapevine, that Chet and Justin are trying to put together a Sunday morning Bible school, probably starting this fall.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I think they're going to start in Leviticus, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that, on what book, but I think it was.
I think Bash and Thinker have a YouTube channel where they're going over the Bible as well.
They do. They have verses and vibes with Thinker and Bash, and you can, I think, go to either one of their profiles to get to, but if not, you could just go to YouTube and look that up. Verses and vibes with Thinker and Bash, and they go live. I don't remember what day of the week it is live, but but then they post it's like a podcast, so I'm gonna call it that. They post their podcasts on YouTube so you can rewatch them.
Also, I was on a live, I think it was yesterday, and they were talking about the story of when they were building the tower, and how they were unifying to build the tower, and apparently God looked down on them and he didn't like how they were uniting, and because they were getting too strong, and they were building this tower too high or something like that. So he confused their language so they wouldn't understand each other.
Yeah, that's the Tower of Babel in Genesis chapter 11. We just went over that in my Bible study yesterday. For those of you who don't know, Wednesday mornings, 11 a.m. right here, 11 a.m. Pacific time, I do a Bible study, and we're going chapter, each chapter each week. Sometimes on the shorter chapters, we'll probably do more than one chapter, and then the longer chapters, we'll break them up. But we're on Genesis chapter 12 next week, but we just did chapter 11, which is the Tower of Babel. And that's what made me think of this, because it's like, why do Christians always say God just wants us to all come together when clearly he doesn't? Because the first time we all did come together and we were doing something, it never says that the people were building this tower to try to get to heaven, okay? It says they were building a city, and they were trying to build a nice skyscraper like they done in New York. They wanted to see if it could reach, the sky, basically. And he thought, look at how they have all come together and done this. If we don't stop them, then they're going to be able to do anything. And so we need to stop them from doing this. And I don't know, like I was telling everybody in the Bible study, I always hated that as a child, because I thought, what loving parent wouldn't want you to reach your goals, right? Like, what?
Crystal, I just got to say something. I have learned so much of what a good mom looks like just by hearing you talk about your own kids.
Yep.
As someone who had a mom who relished in my failures, as a mom who only talks about me being smart in terms of the potential I didn't reach, you've got to know that you are a gem.
I don't
so much from you.
I don't want anybody to think that my children's childhoods were perfect. They were not. At the time, Doug and I both had undiagnosed mental illness, so we argued a lot in front of our children, and we yelled a lot in front of our children, which I regret to this day. I worked on healing that with my kids? Abso-freaking-lutely, okay? But my mothering style was always true to what I'm telling you. Like, this is who I was as a mom and who I am as a mom. My children and I have a great relationship. And now, you know, like as a family, we have a great relationship now. But it wasn't always easy for them as kids because, you know, I did have undiagnosed mental illness, and so did my husband. And that it showed itself in things like us yelling at each other and arguing in front of our kids and stuff. And if I could take anything back, I would 100% take that back.
I've never ever heard my parents argue, not once, and they hate each other.
And we loved each other, and we argued and fought right in front of our kids over stupid shit too. Like, it was not about, I mean, like, we argued over bills and shit, but like, you know, one night we were having an argument over, can you decide what you believe? Or is that done because you are convinced or not? And gotten a huge argument about that.
But the big difference, I was going to say, the big difference that I think makes your kids have the relationship with you that they do is the fact that you're willing to change and be honest about it. I think that is such a rare quality in people and is not something I've ever experienced around older adults. So
I agree with that. One of the biggest differences between my relationship with my dad and the one that I do not have with my mother any longer is that, because he was able to finally say, like, hey, you know what? I really fucked up in a lot of ways, and I realize that now. And I just want you to know, like, I love you, and I am so sorry that these things affected you in these ways. And, you know, it didn't make everything better. It didn't make everything perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But, like, we still have that relationship because he was able to do that. But some people aren't willing and able to accept accountability and responsibility for things that caused hurt and pain. And I think it takes a really big person to be able to do that, and a really, like, in touch with themselves and aware person to be able to do that, to say, like, wow, I harmed you, I caused harm, and that is not ever what I actually want to do. So I'm gonna apologize, but also I'm gonna do the work and change in order to make amends and to make sure that it doesn't happen again, or that we can communicate through this growth process. And yeah, that's huge.
Well, thank you. I didn't, Tracy, to be fair, I didn't see it in my parents, and so it was important to me to not be like that. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, they never said they were sorry. They never admitted when they were wrong. They never did anything to show me that they wanted me to be the one who always changed and improved the relationship to what their idea of what our relationship should be, and never meet me in the middle on them doing some changing and them doing some apologizing. So for me, that was really important with my kids. Like I said, since they were little, I was like, you need to be able to question me. You need to be able to, like, I did tell them things too, like, if I'm ever, like, yelling at you and it's heated or whatever, like, I'm upset with you, that is probably not the time to tell me, like, to calm down or something, because that tends to put a little fuel on the fire. But certainly come to me afterwards and tell me that was really inappropriate. I did not like the way you talked to me or whatever. So I would be very honest with them about things like that. Or if you have to tell me something and you are afraid to tell me and it's something really bad, just tell me anyway. Give me a minute to have a human reaction, but then we'll get through anything. Like, I might act like an idiot at first when you first tell me, because I'm human and my emotions might get the best of me for a minute, but I will calm down and we'll figure it out and we'll get through anything. But because I knew, like, you know, there's things when your kids tell you something, like, I don't know, like, I was just afraid they could tell me something and I might get upset and not think it through when they first tell me. Does that make sense? And I might get upset at first. And I was like, but still tell me. Don't hide it from me. Deal breaker, you asked a question a minute ago and I wanted to answer it for you. You said, who was we in the story? So are you familiar with the divine council?
Yes.
Yes, you are. Okay, so that's who the we is. He's talking about the divine council. Whenever in Genesis, God says, like, let us make man in our image. He's not talking about the Trinity. He's talking about the divine council, or let us go down and do this, or we need to do that. It's the divine council.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I just learned that recently, because it was always taught in the church that he was foreshadowing Jesus, whenever we saw we in the Old Testament.
Yeah, they like to tell you that that's a Trinity reference.
Psalms, I do believe it's Psalms where David says that he has finally reached his authority upon the council, right? So God, I mean, literally Yahweh is just a lesser God. Like, he was never a high God like any part of Canaanite religion. And there's you can like Google like the history of like Canaanite religion, but he was only just the God of Israel. Like, he wasn't God of the whole world or the whole God of, you know, creation when we look at, you know, Canaanites. And the whole story of the Tower of Babel is, the way I heard it and the way it was explained to me in the church too, was that we were all one race, one language, because we all came from Adam and Eve. And because of the Tower of Babel is the reason why we have diversity. And I said, because God created diversity, he's going to send his own diversity to hell.
Yeah.
Because, right, I mean, it was, okay, so you have Buddhists, you have like all these different religions, and you have all these different languages that can call God in a different name or whatever. But because someone uses a different language or believes in a different God that could still be the same God, he's going to send you to hell when he caused the problem in the first place.
Exactly.
Right, okay.
He causes all these problems.
Right.
He is the problem maker. Okay, wait, listen to this, Vintage Witch. If I hadn't been going chapter by chapter through the Bible, I wouldn't even know this existed. But in chapter 10, verse 20, it says, these are the descendants of Ham by their families, their languages, their lands, and their nations. So how do we go from chapter 10, where we speak different languages and we are diverse, to chapter 11, we suddenly all speak the same language and we're all unified?
Yeah, it's a very contradiction, which is interesting because if you actually research the lineage of Ham, I do believe they didn't follow Yahweh. That's another thing about the lineage of Noah. They didn't follow Yahweh at all. They were different from a different Canaanite tribe, yes. If I'm correct, I think it was, I'll have to go back and look exactly who the son of Ham was, but I think it was was that Lot? I think Moabites were Lot, I think. And Ham was a different tribe, but not not of any aspects of Israel whatsoever. So, and just like the Midianites who were in the southern part of Jerusalem worship Baal and Yahweh. And I like to think that Yahweh was only introduced through that marriage of Sephirah, who was a Midianite woman. right? So, and then there's the other issue is that you marry a man who literally goes and unalives your entire tribal group of people.
Right.
That's another one. Like, that's the marriage of hell right there. I mean, how can, knowing that these people were worshiping Yahweh and Baal in a polytheistic point of view narrative when everyone in that region was polytheistic into Canaanite religion. Like, I tell Christians all the time, I said, I don't even need to read you Bible verses. I can literally just destroy Christianity alone just with the ancient culture that existed within that time. I can use every single lineage to disprove a one true God ideology.
Right.
Yeah. Darth did get mad at me because I think Darth had asked me a question on Lori's live, about what I think. And I said, I can totally disprove Christianity just with archaeology evidence. Easy, simple, in 10 seconds. And then he got mad.
Yeah, he gets mad. Vintage is Ham Canaan's kid. Is that right? Or is it vice versa? Or what is that?
I think so. Let me go pull it up on my notes on my computer. Hold on one second.
Okay, I can't remember right now, Tracy. I can't remember the lineages. In case you guys don't know, I don't know if it's my ADHD or what, but like when we get to the genealogy pages, my brain just wants to shut down. Darth Dawkins' catchphrase is, "That's fallacious." That's awesome. Okay, I'm glad, Deal Breaker, I'm not alone on that because I can't stand the genealogies.
He did say it this morning, so you're not wrong.
He did?
Yeah, the
he
son
said
of
that's fallacious?
is the father of the Canaanites.
Okay.
Which, I mean, just using the lineage literally just disproves the entire Bible, which is pretty sad.
I see your... Okay. So, see, going Bible chapter by chapter has helped me so much. So, if any of you are wanting to do that, join us on Wednesday mornings, because it's not just me, by the way. I have amazing panels Wednesday mornings. I will have, like, Rebel Rabbi will sometimes join us. This week, another rabbi named Bert joined us. Biblical Scholar is usually in the chat and sometimes pops up. Nick Graves is there. Hippie is often there. Plus, there's, like, in the chat, Benny Boy, Seth, Tracy is there. It's amazing, So if you can join us on Wednesday mornings, join us. But, like, I didn't realize that Canaan was the first slave in the Bible. A lot of times people will say that Joseph was the first one, but that's not true. And because of Canaan, a lot of people use that to enslave. They not only used Leviticus, they used the story of Canaan to enslave people in Africa. And the curse of Canaan, which I was unaware of. Don't y'all talk at once, okay? Just leave me here talking by myself.
No, you go ahead,
We're
Tracy.
listening to your nice voice, Krista. You sound so soothing. Oh, someone was speaking. Sorry, I did not mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead, Deal Breaker. I think you were going to say something.
And that's why now you're seeing a whole religion being formed around that whole point that you just stated about black people being the original slaves, and now because now we were a cursed nation, and now we all need to turn back to Yahweh to get out of this bondage type ideology. I don't know if any of you heard that.
Hebrew Israelites. Is that I hear that coming from the real Hebrew Israelites?
Right.
I didn't know that that's where that came from. Hi, Thinker. Hi, Joel. Joel is indisposed, or he would join us.
Go more into detail with that, because I've heard about it, but more in depth, and then I'll add some notes to go further down into.
So I'm wondering if you're talking about the curse of Ham. Is that what you're talking about?
No, the curse of, well, it might be also called the curse of Ham, but it's when Noah curses Canaan because of what his son did, what Noah's son did. But instead of cursing his son, he curses Canaan. Okay, all right, just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing.
So my grandpa was raised in the Southern Baptist Church, and he taught me that that's where we get black people from.
Yeah, they use that to say that.
My ex-husband said that too.
I was taught that, but not from Canaanites, from Cain of Cain and Abel fame.
Hold up. You got us from what now? Wait.
From the curse of Canaan. Here, let me read it to you, Ruby. This is what people use to justify racism and slavery, okay?
I was so happy when I found out it was just pigment. I was like, Papa, it's not a curse, it's just skin pigment.
Okay, here we go. We're in chapter 9, and I'm going to go to from verse 24 through 28, okay? When Noah awoke from his wine. Okay, so what has happened here? Oh, thank you guys for the gifts. Thank you, Thinker. So Noah, after the ark incident and everything, he grows a vineyard and gets drunk. And his son comes in and sees him naked and then goes and mocks him to his brothers. And so now Noah realizes what has happened. He wakes up, and this is what he does, okay? He says, when Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his youngest son had done to him, he said, cursed be Canaan, which was the grandson, okay, not the son. Lowest of slaves shall he be to his brothers. He also, blessed be the Lord my God, be Shem, and let Canaan be his slave. May God make space for Japheth, and let him live in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his slave. After and then it just goes on to tell you how long Noah lived. So they use the curse of Canaan to say that is, the curse was people being created black at that point, and that they were to be slaves.
But that does not say that though. Oh, my
No,
brain
it
cells
doesn't say
melting
that at
again.
all.
Oh, it's like, okay, we were the people that the grandsons or descendants from the grandsons.
Yeah. And to this day, okay, so I don't know if y'all are aware, but Palestinian people are Canaanites, okay? And people still use it to this day to justify anything bad that happens to the Palestinian people, too. That's another thing they do. They're like, well, they deserve it because they're Canaanites.
How, even if they're Canaanites, like, seriously, in your mind, doing these atrocities and so it's okay? Like, come on. The Bible was written like eons of years ago. Second of all, it's a fairy tale. So it's like me taking the Harry Potter book and like holding just a group of people. Like, oh, it was the movie was in a place called so and so in England. So everyone that came from that area, yeah, you guys are not good. So abigididi upon you and all that. Like, what? That's so. Oh,
Thanks for having me up, Crystal. I gotta bounce. I appreciate it.
Okay, DC. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you.
Hey,
Have
no
a great
problem.
day.
Hey, tomorrow morning, if you're up, I'm going live with Cece.
Okay, I'll be
It's
there.
gonna be 7 a.m. my time, so you might be asleep still. I'm not sure.
Ooh, I'll probably be asleep still. So,
All right.
To
All right, have a good one.
Hey, you too. So to add
Bye,
into this
DC.
with Cain, right? So if we go back to Moses' wife, who was a princess or of the Cushonites, right? Which was Tharbis. And according to Josephus, she was a Cushonite princess of the kingdom of Cush who married Moses prior to Zipporah. Now, the Kingdom of Kush was an early African civilization that existed in around 2000 BC to 300 BC, and they were polytheistic, which was a blend of the Egyptian gods, it looks like, too, as well. Now, if we talk about the Kingdom of Kush, and I just Googled it for giggles, Kush or Cush or Kush, according to the Hebrew Bible, was the oldest son of Ham. So they're traced back to Ham in the Bible, supposedly, in which Ham, the father of Canaanites. I would call this a Bible conspiracy theory. I mean, there's a lot of Bible theories that, like, I mean, as far as like when it comes to like civilizations at the same time, but I don't know, something just made me want to Google it. I was like, well, is there a connection to that? But then it goes back to, if you're not allowed to marry someone who worships other gods, why would you allow a marriage to a Cushite princess who was who would have been polytheistic?
Right. And here's the other thing. Let's pretend that we aren't noticing some of these Bible verses that show division, and we only look at all the good ones. We'll be cherry pickers for a minute, okay? Christians themselves use any story they can to cause division in the church and in their lives. They use verses to be racist. They use verses to be homophobic. They use verses to be transphobic. They themselves do not desire to unify us as people.
That's just the way of the Lord, I guess.
And guess what?
They do.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just answering Travion in the comments. They use verses to be transphobic. They use verses just to be hateful to other people.
And guess what the government type was of the Cushnites?
What?
Not monarchy. Monarchy type government.
Yeah.
Kush sounds like a really fancy name for something, you know? Makush.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry,
Yeah.
I'm done.
It's
My
Kush
brain is
OG,
not good.
y'all.
Right? Makush.
Which it provides a lot of contradictions into what God literally says and what his rules and standards are when it comes to other gods or false gods. But yeah, we're going to marry other people who follow other gods. Like, when you break down the lineage and actually who they are. Which I didn't even know that either. So I guess they're also linked back to the son of Ham as well as the Cushnites. So it kind of makes you wonder. Now I'm just gonna have to add that to my list of things to look up now. Yep.
Yeah. Well, y'all, I think I'll wrap it up for the day. I'm gonna be live later with Joyful if he's feeling up to it. He goes live normally at 7 p.m. Central Time for debates, but he's going to probably do a panel style tonight because he does have COVID. So if he goes live, he'll probably do a panel style. So if you want to join us, and you know I mod there, so if you want to jump up on the panel, let me know. I'll bring you up. But yeah, I think I'm going to wrap it up for the day and go eat something for lunch, and then I'll see you guys around TikTok today and then tonight. Are you going to try to hop up tonight, Joel? I'd appreciate that. That'd be awesome because Joyful's feeling under the weather for sure. But yeah, I really appreciate you all. I love you all. Thank you for the gifts, the likes, the follows. You guys, make sure you're following Ruby and go down into chat and follow Dealbreaker too. Amazing women. I love you and thank you so much for being with me today. I really appreciate it.
Have a good day, as well.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.